Hello YouTubers, welcome back to my novice channel. I do apologize if it looks kind of crappy or sounds kind of crappy. I am doing this from my phone until I get more subscribers and views, and yeah, I'll invest into something that's better. So this is going to be a comparison video between the 8th gen and the 9th gen. So we will start on the biggest gripe as far as the 8th gen 9th gen battle, and then I'll take you guys in more detail of like all the smaller things that I personally do not like with the 9th gen. Okay, without further delay, okay, the motor. This is a K20Z3 with LSD electrical power steering. Unfortunately, this motor does have a balance shaft which can be removed and replaced with the RSX Type S oil pump. Once you do that, you're basically closer than a RSX would be to a Type R. The RSX Type S K20Z1, because the A2 is completely different. It's got major differences, not completely different, but it's lacking, but it's still a strong motor nonetheless. The Z1 has a Type R cam, whereas this one doesn't. It's got a different type of cam, but we all know that cams can easily be replaced. Even with the cam that it has now, just a Honda will get you revving to 8600 RPM. And I'm not too sure if I'm correct. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you put a Type S oil pump on this, you can rev close to 9 grand, which is to me pretty impressive. Oil pump is kind of on the expensive side. It's like $200 or $300, but it's affordable. Just getting the work done. You gotta take it to somebody that knows what they're doing, because you gotta cut it. Anyways, back to the 9th gen. So the differences between the 9th gen and the 8th gen is obviously the 9th gen has a K24, but the K24 does not have this RBC manifold. Instead, the 9th gen gets a plastic manifold, which is a step backwards in my opinion. Cost savings. You can see the intake here. It's almost the same as the 9th gen, but unfortunately with the 9th gen, you cannot just put an intake on the 9th gen and expect gains. You have to get a Honda or a Flash Pro just to run an intake, because it does not like running it without, which to me is fucking absurd. I'm sorry for the cussing, but you're gonna waste, let's say, $200 to $300 on the cheap side for an intake, and then buy an ECU for $600. So an intake will cost you close to $1,000, and it's like, okay, it's just an intake, and you're just getting like 15 horses, if that. Although you should get a Honda regardless of the fact, with that car it's absolutely needed. So that's one drawback of a 9th gen. The header situation on these, you actually have a header. You cannot see it. You can swap it out, get some cheap power that way as well. And obviously with the 9th gen, you can't do it. It's all one piece, so you just buy a downpipe. But that header, the way it makes that K24 sound, it sounds muffled as hell. This car, when you put an intake on it with the RBC, it just it roars. Has a way sportier sound. It's the VTEC sound you expect to hear. The VTEC cracks really loud. The VTEC crossover is, pretty loud in this car. Almost as close as the B18 C5. The C5 is loud as well. Even a GSR. Yeah, so this motor sounds better. You can work with this motor more than the other one. You have to swap the head out, or swap the head out, just so that you can have VTEC on both cams, because the K24 Z1 only has it, or Z7 only has it on one cam. So one intake cam has VTEC and the other one doesn't. The exhaust, I think, doesn't have it. So you guys be the judge on that. It's not even a true VTEC. It's like an economy VTEC. What else can I say about the motor as far as that car? Yeah, the bottom end is a little more stronger than a regular K24 from a RSX or the TSX, but you have to do a lot more work to that car, whereas this already comes with a majority of that stuff. Granted, it is a little older, so you're gonna find them with high mileage, but these cars run for a very long time. I've seen them with 200,000 miles. People are proud to post their K20 Z1s with 250, 300,000. I even seen this motor go up to 400,000. Obviously, you need maintenance, of course. No car will run without that, but yeah. So that's the main thing with this motor and the 9th gen motor. This motor has way more character. This motor just sounds more aggressive. Yes, it's lacking on the low end torque, but once you start revving it, it's a completely different animal. It's the Honda you expect. It's not like an economy car like the way the new SI is. Because to me, the SI 9th gen, when it came out during a depression for Japan, and they were trying to make the same car for cheaper with the same speed. Yes, it's close to the same speed, but it's built cheaper. So you're getting the same car essentially, but not the same car, but the same speed for cheaper, and the way it delivers the power is a lot different. It's not a dramatic experience like the way this one is. All right. Next, the transmission on this car. The K20 Z1 comes with it's a close ratio. Hold on, let me adjust this really quick. It's a close ratio 6-speed LSD. This is a 9th gen shift knob. Mine was beat to hell, so I got this one for cheap. I couldn't pass up on it, so I got the shift knob from a 9th gen, only because it looks newer, as you can tell. But back to the transmission. This transmission, its throws they're short. And do you hear those clicks? That's how it sounds when you're driving it. You go from first gear, clutch in, that, boom. My transmission is still in really good shape. The things that I feel wrong with it are because I made a few mistakes. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect every time, because nobody's perfect, but the transmission in this car feels a lot more sportier than the Z3 or the Z7. I'm sorry. The Z7 feels like a truck motor, like the 2.4 found in most trucks feel like that. It's tall, it's long, and it's not a close ratio, meaning that when I shift in this car, and let's say I'm at the 3, that thing only goes down like 500 RPM. So it'll go from 3 to 2.5, back up to 3, 2.5. That's short. That's how short ratio this transmission is. It's a really close ratio. It's a really good LSD. and it can take power, and it just feels so much more sportier than a K24 Z7 tranny. I've owned both of them, so I know how it is to daily this car and daily the 8th gen and the 9th gen. Okay, so the transmission is another one of the gripes that I have towards that car, and I'm thinking it's just because they try to build it cheaper, same speed for cheaper. I think that was the whole goal of that car. Next is a radio. This radio, yes, it doesn't have Bluetooth. Yes, it doesn't have all those fancy, touch screen and the volume knob that's fucking like an iPad. You have to go up and down with it. But this radio sounds a whole lot better. Okay, back to what I was saying. This radio sounds a whole lot better. When you jump into the 9th Gen SIs, they say they have the same amount of watts, the same amount of speakers, but when you jump from car to car, you can actually tell the difference big time. This car has a lot more bass. The tweeter is there. You have speakers up there. There's one right there. There's another one over there. There's one down there, right there. Then you have the deck that's in the back, and in between that's the sub, and then on the right and on the left, that is the regular speakers. The sub in this car sounds a lot better, hands down. Like, I don't know what it is, the difference between the speakers or the system itself, maybe the head unit, but the stereo sounds a lot better in the 8th gen. And it's like I'm saying, you start to see a pattern of, like where they were cutting corners, and you can't really blame them because they have to stay alive as a company. But to me, they didn't really come out and say it, but to me it's just like the same car with almost the same features but built cheaper. And I think that's the whole theme of the 9th gen, because even the plastic on the doors, like this plastic is actually pretty thick. It's a soft touch, like it has Alcantara. And from what I've heard, this material is expensive, and they're not using Alcantara no more. They went with this weird design, and unfortunately it's just cheaper. I will give it up to the 9th gen because it does have a nice infotainment system. The screen up there, like it's got like 3 different screens, which is cool. But in a car that I daily and I'm gonna live most of my life in, as far as traffic, I would rather much have this radio than the whole infotainment center in the other one. Only because like I really like music, and this car has a better sounding system. Even though I had to use an aux cable, it's definitely worth it, like hands down. Like, I haven't even changed the head unit yet, even though some of the lights don't turn on, only because it sounds so good. It's not broken. I'm not gonna change it. Next, the seats. The 9th gen seats do not look like this. Like, look at the way the seats look. Yeah, they're a little faded from the sun, but look at that. This is Alcantara. These seats, when they were brand new, they were the shit. The way the bolsters hug you, the red stitching with the black Alcantara, that's like Type R shit. Those are like Type R seats. Even this piece right here, the way this piece comes out, and this is a little dirty. I can clean that and make it all look like soft Alcantara again. But just look at the seats. When you see the 9th gen seats, they have a weird design. Like this is just stitching, like it's a whole flat seat like that with stitching like that. The material they use, I absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated that material that they had for these seats. And it doesn't even hug you the same. I love the fact that this has a big lumbar support, or whatever you want to call it. And the other seats, when you jump into a 9th gen, they just feel flat. They feel flat as fuck. It's like no sportiness in that at all. You know, and this is just a suede. This is actually a little dirty. That's what happens when you have kids in the back. But look at that. It looks like some Type R shit. Like if you're a fan of the DC2, then you're gonna like these seats. And that's the theme that it carries on throughout the whole whip. So the seats in the 9th gen, again, not a fan of them. The door panels, same thing. These got Alcantara. It doesn't have like a fake stitching kind of a look. I mean, even the shift boots got that. The black and red theme going. So yeah. I mean, you guys be the judge. The steering wheel, I do hate on the 8th gen, unfortunately. I like the way it looks when it's brand new. It's a small steering wheel. But why I hate it is because the leather that they use on that thing, it's delicate as hell. You cannot get nothing on that steering wheel because it's gonna fucking wear out fast. And I recently changed my steering wheel, and then I started noticing that it was peeling quick, so I just put the wrap back on. I put that steering wheel cover back on. I said, no, I'm not gonna. I was tired of battling it. I had to always put conditioner on it every day. I'll put conditioner on it just to avoid peeling. So yes, the steering wheel, horrible. The material, the style of it, it's fucking dope. I like it a lot. But unfortunately, I have to have it with that because I'm tired of just trying to battle the peeling. The dashboard, I absolutely like the dashboard though. The way all that is, the 2-tier, how the speedo's on top and the tacks in the middle, awesome. The whole design is fucking dope. You know, this car does have its flaws, but all around, I think it's a way better car than a 9th gen. And I would take this car any day over a 9th gen. Another thing that I don't like about the 9th gen is the way the exhaust sounds. I'm sure they have the same exhaust system because I've seen it myself. But you know, that header situation, it makes it sound so much different. These, when they come stock with the stock exhaust, it sounds dope. It sounds like an SI. It's the best sounding K20, you know, stock. The RSX sounds really quiet. The Type S is the same way, really quiet. And this one, even with the stock stuff, it has a nice, like, deep sound to it. Like whoever tuned that exhaust got a really nice sound out of it. It was incredible. We all know it's restrictive, but again, the way it sounds, it's nice. This one, all I did was put a skunk tooth cap axle back, So that's a skunk too, and it's just from the axle back. Only because, you know, I like the way it sounds like that. It's an N1 style. And I have the rest of the stock stuff, including the header. Just with that alone, it sounds really good. And with the 9th gen, it doesn't sound like that at all. 9th gen sounds quiet. You know, it sounds like muffled. You can barely hear it. Like, it barely sounds like an SI. I know it sounds like I'm complaining about the SI, you know, the 9th gen. You know, but I kind of am, only because Honda's, like, we know what Honda can do, and they just went backwards with it. They stood alive, you know, during the recession. They did what they had to do, so kudos to them on that. I just hope they bring out something better, because the 1.5 is cool, but it taps out really quick. But a lot of Civic owners only do 200 to 220 horsepower anyways, so I can see why they did that too. Nobody really goes above that, and in my opinion, it's not worth putting 2,000 to 3,000 on this car, like, into the motor, like, just to get 220 to the wheel. That's a lot of money to have 220 to the wheel. If I put those 3 grand into something that's boosted, like my Evo, for example, I'm gonna get more than 220 to the tire. I'm gonna get more than a 220 to 40 horsepower difference. Granted, it's a lot heavier, but boost is boost, and you're gonna have way more fun in that. But this car is, you know, I sold my 8th gen, and I had to get this car back. I had to get another one. I really like this car. You know, at first I wasn't too excited about it when it first came out, only because it was slower than the Type S. But as I started seeing the 9th gen, and then the rest of the generations coming out, I'm like, damn, I need to get an 8th gen, because now I see how good it was. People took this car for granted. Like, I can see why this car still has a big following. You know, a lot of people, they don't let these cars die. They don't let these cars, you know, go to the junkyard. They blow the motor, you get yourself a K24. You already have the setup. You have all that stuff around there. Just put a K24 bottom end, you know, with the Honda, you're straight. It's just hard for me to do that because I really like the K20. You know, I like the way it sounds. You know, I know it's lacking in torque and all that, but it's just a really good motor. I hate for it to go to waste. I probably would have rather built that and make it go to 9K and take that route over the K24. But you can't beat the bang for the buck on a K24. You just cannot. And if you find one at pick apart from an RSX, I mean from a TSX, they're gonna sell it to you for $200 to $300 if you pull it yourself. You can't beat that. That's fucking insanely cheap. Next one is another thing towards the 9th gen. It's kind of a, not a biased, but I would say like just a preference. The rims on the 9th gen, on the 13s, they look cool. You know, they're all right, but I still prefer these a whole lot more. Like, when you see these actually turning and they're spinning like really fast, the way it looks like one flat dish, so to speak, it looks dope. It looks really dope. The 13s are the best ones on the 9th gen in my opinion. And then the other ones that kind of look like daggers or like blades, if you know what I'm saying, they kind of look weird. You know, the stock car, when it comes with its stock, the stock height, the rims look weird on it. Yeah, so again, you know, I don't mean to burst anybody's bubble, you know, all the 9th gen owners, because to me it's all like you can still work with what you have, and most of the time you're better off doing that if you already pulled the trigger on one. But I mean, this car is just, to me, it's just so much better. Like the design of it, you know, even to the cup holders. This thing, the cup holders being like that. You know, there's a little space right there, the glove box. You know, it's a nice car. I don't like the headliner though. The 9th gen does win with the black headliner. I'll give it that, because our headliner and our fucking sun visors are shit. They split open, and this thing falls down like a circus tent. Then it gets dirty as hell. But not everything is all fucking all sunshine with this car. This car is notorious for having CMC problems. I don't have a second gear pop out or third gear pop out the way the other ones had. The first couple of 8 gens that rolled out. So I'm thankful for that. And I've had a 07 and a 08. And at the 07, 40,000 miles up to like 70,000 miles I kept it to. Nothing. No pop outs. That thing was shifting slick like butter. The transmission in this car, it shifts like no other. The 9th gen doesn't even compare to it. The way this car's transmission shifts, it sounds like clicks, like the way you were hearing me earlier. Just like that, just clicks like smooth. Here's a guest of honor. So yeah, this car is CMC, notorious for going out. Get OEM. Yes, it's tricky to get to, but it can be done. I did it myself. The hardest thing about the CMC is bleeding it. You have to force bleed it. You have to put a socket, like a wrench or something in between where the fork is, that pushes up against the slave, and you have to like squeeze the slave and then keep it, you know, under pressure while you go inside and pump it. And that forces that whatever air is stuck in there out. Like it's a dealer trick that, you know, was taught by somebody that works at the dealer or used to work at the dealer. CMC slave. Luckily I didn't have the issue with the clutch pedal. Some clutch pedals break on these things. Not the pedal itself, but the housing of the pedal. That thing breaks, you can't shift no more. Luckily I don't have that problem. I don't slam shift. I think that's what causes that. I don't slam the fuck out of my clutch. You know, I race it, I drive it aggressively, but I know, you know, when something needs force, I'll give it force. And when something doesn't, I don't. I treat it right, even when I'm beating it. If that makes sense to you. And I think a lot of people have that issue, that they think this is a B18 C1 where you can shift as fast as you can pull the trigger and it's going to take it. And you try to shift in like 2 milliseconds or 3 milliseconds. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, bro. These cars do not like that at all. Even the stock tune, if you shift too fast, because I changed all that, even my clutch. So the whole hydraulic system and the clutch, I changed. And I tried shifting fast, and the tune just like bogs out. Like the tune just won't let you shift that fast and let it keep going. Like it just bogs it out. So it's just, you have to take that 1 second or half a second to shift, you know, and let everything run smoothly. You just have to. You can power shift, you can no lift shift, but you'll see what I mean. Maybe on no lift shift you kind of force it to just stay in the high RPMs, but I don't recommend it. What else can I say with this? I like that it doesn't have the chrome pieces in front. I don't like the chrome on the new SIs. I mean the 9th gen. You know, this car, like I said, you can put an intake on it, you can put a header on it, cap back, and you can drive it with the stock tune. You do that to a 9th gen, you have to buy Honda. Just with the intake alone. Honda, you need for the intake the exhaust, and you can't change the header on it. VTEC crossover on the 9th gen, barely noticeable. That's why they put the light in, you know, just to train your mind to accept it, so that you feel comfortable knowing your car's in VTEC, but it's really a one cam sided VTEC, which is not good. And yeah, I mean, what else can I say? You know, the side markers on this car, you know, they're from an S2000. Don't go taking my style. The spoiler in this car I actually like more than the 9th gen spoiler for sure. It's way more sportier. My car is not cosmetically the best, but I've done enough work to it where it feels like an 8th gen, the way it used to feel when it had 40,000 miles. So this is the 8th gen in all its glory. You know, the only advantage a 9th gen has really is that it's easier to go turbo on that thing. The motor, you know, can take it more, but it's a lot more expensive. 5,000 bucks for the system itself, not including it, installing it, not including, you know, dynoing it. It's just the system itself. And I mean, with this thing, I can run it like this, the way it is, for a very long time. It's been reliable. Only the starter is really the one that's taking the shit on this car, and the clutch. But I mean, the clutch is actually normal wear and tear. You know, it just depends on who drives it and how they drive it. Fortunately, the guy before me was probably not driving it right, burned the clutch, put an Exetti one in there, but he didn't change the pressure plate, and it wasn't letting me go into gear after, because the pressure plate or the ring that's inside just took a shit. So I went out, Rock Auto, Exetti, you know, clutch kit came with everything. I got a different flywheel. It's lightened. It's not a lightweight flywheel, but it is lighter than stock. Makes a fucking big difference in these cars. Highly recommend a lightened flywheel. You cannot go wrong with that. And if you get a lighter flywheel, by all means, get that R6 Type S oil pump, and it's gonna feel good. It's gonna pull. For a 2.0 with no torque, with 139, with the measly 139 pounds of torque, it responds. My next move is the Type S oil pump. I keep talking about it because I'm definitely gonna get it. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. These cars actually